Hello, this is Gambia24 with me, Sohna Tunkara. Let's look at our news bulletin. Commercial drivers in Gambia lament over fuel price increment. The Gambia preparing to reopen schools shut since March. Madiana Bruford Road destroyed by flood is now unmotorable. These and more coming up on Gambia24. Stay tuned. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. Commercial drivers in the Gambia have raised concerns over the recent rise in fuel prices. Drivers who told iAfrica TV that the increment in fuel prices is unfair treatment, so their earnings severely cut down between March and July due to government-imposed COVID-19 restrictions. The ACC has more in this report.
Fuel pump prices in the Gambia increased by $2 for petrol and by 43 bututs for diesel in the beginning of September. But commercial drivers in the country who saw their income lowered by COVID-19 regulations said the increment has created a lot of problems for them. One such driver is Alaji Ibrahim Jete.
Fuel increment bigger definitely getting.
The increment of prices of fuel has disturbed drivers a lot, more especially in this lockdown. We normally don't have enough passengers. If we have full passenger for the first trip, it takes time before having another full trip. The amount of passengers we normally have from Bakau to Westfield is too limited sometimes. This is really a problem as most drivers do not have their own vehicle. Instead, they are working for someone. And most of these people do not have understanding that things are not going down well. The biggest issue is that the drivers are not informed about most of the fuel increment. And we should be informed prior so that we can prepare that something is going to happen in the near future. So right now, things are so difficult for us.
Some commercial drivers, like Lamin Sise, want the government to lower the prices of fuel in order to help them in their recovery from the challenges brought about by the coronavirus pandemic.
Most of the drivers return their vehicles as the work is very limited due to the increment. The government is increasing fuel now almost every month without informing the drivers. This is so difficult for us as the money we normally spend on buying fuel is so expensive.
Fuel prices were last reduced 5 months ago. In March, fuel prices dropped for the first time in 2020 by almost $4 for diesel and almost $3 for petrol. And in April, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs announced a reduction of fuel prices throughout the country. For iAfrica TV, I am Daisy.
Drivers are complaining over the increment of fuel prices, saying it is unfair treatment as they are earning less. Now, from that, education is one of the most affected sectors by the coronavirus pandemic. Schools in the Gambia remain closed since March when the first case of coronavirus was reported in the country. After 6 months of sitting at home, students are likely to return to the classroom soon, according to education authorities. But this is not clear how soon. Ibrahim Sonko tells us more.
The Gambia's Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, MOPSI, is in consultation with stakeholders including the Teachers Union on putting up tangible measures for the reopening of schools. The Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, Adama Jumba Job, said he is hopeful schools will open soon, but the decision will ultimately involve a presidential directive as schools were closed by an executive order.
We cannot give you a date as we speak, and that is not my responsibility. If the date is agreed on, the Honorable Minister would handle. But also, as I alluded to, the close of schools was not a decision by MOPSI. It was from the presidency. Even if we have everything in place, we still need to get clearance from the presidency. And if that is also, that clearance has to be based on advice from the health personnel. They are the experts. They have to advise the presidency. Then the presidency, based on health advice or guidelines provided, now you can open school. But like I said, we are working on something that we will, and we are optimistic that schools will open very soon.
While education authorities are setting the ground for schools to reopen, they might suggest to the executive a compensation package to teachers where the school days are increased to cover for lost contact hours.
We are studying it, and it's going to be part of the recommendations or resolutions that we will be taking as a ministry to be forwarding to the ministry, to the presidency or to the executive, with all the costings. That if you want to make people work up to Saturday, this is what they need to be. Or the GTU is part of our stakeholders. They understand our problems. They are convinced. Then they take to their membership that this is not the normal thing. It's the new normal. We are still appealing to continue supporting MOPSI so that these Saturday classes would be used as a catch-up for some of the children who cannot come holidays.
Concerns have been raised as whether schools will be able to implement COVID-19 preventive measures, as up to 50 students share a class in some schools. It will be difficult to observe COVID-19 guidelines and for students in populated schools to attend classes from Monday to Friday, according to Lamin A.K. Sanyang, the chairman of the Conference of Principals for Secondary Schools.
But what will not work is having schooling as it used to be, let's say from Monday to Friday, for everybody to come in. Maybe that might not be possible for well-populated schools. But for schools that are not populated, they can continue with the normal or the old norms. But the well-populated schools have to go with a new norm, whereby you cannot come to school consecutively for 5 days. Maybe you'll come to school 3 days in the week or 3 days in the week. And the rest of the days, we are recommending we can bring in distant learning.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Secretary General of the Gambia's Teachers Union, Esa Sow, said the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education has been advised to provide water and sanitary materials to all schools before they reopen schools.
Are not having, water in their campuses.
Yeah, thank you. 3 days ago, I was here. Today is my 4th day. I've been here since on Monday. And on Monday, we have exhaustively discussed that, and all school or regional directors were instructed to provide a list of schools that have challenges of water and sanitation. So we are following up to that to ensure that water, which is paramount and key, is available in schools before we can open. Certainly, you cannot open a school without access to water.
In March, the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education implemented a multifaceted strategies to ensure the continuity of learning on radio, television, and by distributing audiovisual materials to online media. However, even the most prevalent form of distant learning, such as radio or television, often do not reach the poorest or most remote students due to lack of TV or radio sets or poor mobile networks coverage. For iAfrica TV, I'm Ibrahim Akebi Sonko.
Students, after 6 months of sitting at home, are likely to return to their traditional way of learning. Now, moving on to our latest COVID-19 update. A single COVID-19 death reported in the Gambia on Thursday has taken the death toll to 100. This is the first death reported in 1 week, according to the data from the Ministry of Health. With 37 new cases recorded, the country currently has a total of 3,330 coronavirus cases. Of these, 1,749 are active cases and 1,481 patients have recovered. Currently, the Gambia has 106 people in quarantine and 400 probable cases. Meanwhile, the road linking Madiana and Brufut in Gambia's Kombo North district has been left in deplorable conditions by heavy rains in late August and early September. And while the road is no longer accessible to motorists, commuters have no choice but to walk in stagnant water to and from work. For almost 2 weeks, residents of Madiana have been enduring endless troubles on their ways to and from work or the market. This is because commercial vehicles are no longer plying the route between Madiana and Brufut after it was flooded by heavy rainfall. A journey for vegetable sellers to Serekunda that used to cost $35 in round fares now costs up to $75 because they have to take longer routes to reach their destination. In the past, there has been support to rehabilitate the Madiana-Brufut road, but local authorities said it was not enough. Well, viewers, with that brings this edition of Gambia24 to an end. With me, Sohna Tunkara. Please do join my colleague Ibrahim again with the news in Wolof shortly. Good evening and bye for now.